Last weekend, Donald Trump finally hit the campaign trail. So I headed down to South Carolina for what was originally permitted as a MAGA rally, but later downgraded to an intimate event.
What is this event?
It's a Trump rally.
It is a rally.
I'd say it was.
It's not a rally.
It's somewhat of a rally, but it's not a big rally.
Now, I thought it was a rally. It's not a rally. It's a bunch of people standing in line.
It's an event. It's a list. It's invited list only.
This is a private event that VIPs have been invited to.
Yes, only heavily vetted VIPs were invited.
That was a clip from The Daily Show's Jordan Klepper, who has spent years talking to Republicans at events across the country, or Trump supporters. And Jordan joins us once again now with more on that South Carolina event, which wasn't a rally. And by the way, everyone standing on stage looked a little grim, Jordan.
Jordan, tell us about the event/rally, not a rally/event.
Yeah, apparently some people thought it was going to be a rally. It was downgraded to an intimate event, which is dangerous territory. A Trump intimate event is usually followed by...
Never want that.
No, Manhattan prosecutors, grand jury, it's on the way. But when people arrived, it seemed to be more of a VIP event. And what we showed there is it wasn't necessarily VIP caliber folks. Sombrero Trump was there, as well as a lot of folks who even had a hard time wrapping their head around this being a re-election campaign stop. Some people were holding on to the idea that Trump still was president. So the whole POV was muddled from the get-go.
Yeah, but you know, though, Jordan, Scarborough Country, everybody's a VIP. Now, at the same intimate event,
No
Jordan
passport required.
Yeah, only common sense allowed.
I never saw it.
At the same intimate event, Jordan talked to a few people. Get this.
Not once.
I know that nobody watching will be shocked by this, who still believe Donald Trump is still president.
Donald Trump is president right now.
He's currently the president.
Absolutely.
He is still president. There's a lot of things that this Biden person does not have, like the presidential seal and things like that, that are pretty obvious.
Wait, Biden doesn't have the presidential seal?
No.
When he speaks, there's a presidential seal in front of him.
It's not real.
What is he doing as president?
He is in charge of the military.
Great.
The military is in charge of this whole thing.
The military were put in charge in 2018 when President Trump signed an executive order.
The American military arms that are going to Ukraine, we have Donald Trump to thank for that?
No.
That's
two militaries. There's
two militaries.
There's a good and a bad.
So there's two militaries. Donald Trump's in charge of the good one.
Yes.
Biden's in charge of the bad military?
That's exactly right.
There's a good one. There's a bad one. I think, Jordan, people watching, they just want to know one thing. Who's in charge of the Jewish space lasers? Which, the good army or the bad army?
Well, I think the next vice president of the United States is going to get into those Jewish space lasers. That was some of the conversations that we had out there on the road. It was definitely not something that only a couple people said. I was shocked. Again, this is folks who don't want to sit in the inconvenient truth that the person that they support may not be in control of the things that affect their lives. And so what you often see with me out there is they're not having these conversations with other people who are pressing them. They're having these conversations with other people who agree with them. And so these ideas of, I think Trump still should be in charge, therefore he is, therefore he's in charge of the military, doesn't carry water when somebody pushes back and says, how does that actually work?
So Jordan, you've been doing this for a while, obviously. Are we boiling this down to the most hardcore believers? I mean, what's your take on this? Obviously, Willie and I and Meek, we all talk about the friends we talk to that still believe a lot of the conspiracy theories, but nothing at this level. And I'm just curious. Where are you in your level of concern as you're doing? Obviously, you're doing it for entertainment. You're doing it. A lot of people watching this laughing at it. But talk about your personal level of concern as you're hearing this.
Well, I will see. People see these videos and they will accuse us of you're just cherry picking folks. You got to talk to dozens of folks to get one person to say that the Ukrainian war isn't happening. The reality, this was a very small event. We probably talked to 12 people. I think you watch 9 of them. Most of the folks we talk to, and again, people who come to Trump events who want to talk, you can tell them by the capes that they wear. So they tend to be the more extreme points of view. And I don't want to base an entire movement on the folks who came ready to chat. Right. But the folks who are there still believe these wilder thoughts. And then they're going into events that are being billed as more VIP or conversations around the GOP. Yet they're inviting other folks in with an idea that is outside the norm, and they're being supported inside. So, long story short, I am concerned about this movement. I don't think it's going to become more respectable, although the size of it, that's something I don't have perspective on.
Yeah, but
totally
and by the way, Jordan, I think, has taught us all something very important this morning. Always judge a person by the cape they wear.
Jordan, you also asked some of the people for their insights on the current war in Ukraine.
I haven't seen any news reports about, this terrible war in Ukraine.
Where do you get your news?
Newsmax.
And they haven't covered it at all?
I think that there's no war to cover. I think the whole thing is fabricated, and I think that Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, I believe that this is all extortion money.
I spent a little time in Hungary, and I met people who were coming from Ukraine to try to find safe haven. They were actual refugees fleeing what they said was a war zone. Were they lying?
I just think they might be actors, as far as I know. I believe that they might be actors.
All of those people I met in Hungary, those are refugees.
I believe that the government is paying them to do that.
That's a lot of actors. If that's a SAG gig, that's going to cost you billions.
That's like 3 million actors?
Seriously, can you imagine? That's like a bigger cost than like Heaven's Gate. Like, that's massive.
This is Avatar 3 money we're talking.
People hate the media. They hate us, Jordan. And so how is it that you carried off these interviews in such a friendly, open atmosphere with these people? They hate us.
Well, people hate the media, but they also love being on television. And so the idea of having your voice heard and or engaging with somebody who may have a different point of view with you and winning, that in and of itself is the brass ring. So I think that curiosity often outweighs any media bias that they're being told about.
And Jordan, I'm curious, you have some people there believing Trump is still president, perhaps, doubting the war ever happened. Did Vladimir Putin's name ever come up? Were they supportive of him?
We didn't talk about Putin in this situation, although when we have in the past, there is more support for Putin than there is for Biden. And that was a joke that we would have back in the studios back in New York. You're like, if we go out there and we put Putin up against Biden, what are people going to support? And they're much more comfortable criticizing the Biden administration than the Putin one.
All right, The Daily Show's Jordan Klepper, thank you so much. Come back soon. We love having you on. A lot going on. So glad to see you. But we